It's that time of year, the holiday time, where a lot of us get extra nostalgic. At least I know I do. We think about when we were a kid, all the cool toys we got for Christmas, and sometimes it even gets you thinking about some of those childhood toys that you love that you might have forgotten about until just now. And that is what today's video is all about. You see, we've all had our big things that we loved as kids, right? There's the He-Mans, there's the Transformers, there's the G.I. Joe, the Ghostbusters, the Ninja Turtles. But I want to focus on the non-action figure toys that we loved as kids. That's right, non-action figures. And you guys know what I'm talking about. You ever have those days where you're just sitting there and all of a sudden you have this flashback to a toy that you had as a kid that made you feel happy, and you hadn't thought about it until that moment, and you instantly go online and you check eBay and you see if you can find it so that you can add it to your collection for that little dose of dopamine to make you feel happy, bring that nostalgia back. Well, that is what I'm talking about today. We are going to take a look at 3 different non-action figure toys that I am incredibly nostalgic for. And speaking of nostalgia, before we get to the toys, I do need to thank this episode's sponsor, a very nostalgic book, Tommy and the Order of the Cosmic Champions. Tommy and the Order of the Cosmic Champions is a new novel by Anthony J. Rapino and Anthony D. Great. When life supplies 11-year-old Tommy Grant with some unfavorable circumstances intruding on his otherwise tranquil life in 1980s Ohio, he retreats into the spellbinding Order of the Cosmic Champions. When he discovers that the largely successful animated program and toy line is holding a nationwide Create a Character contest where applicants can submit their action figure designs, Tommy knows he has to enter. But when Tommy's character design fails to win the contest, he finds his world crumbling from all sides. What follows is a whirlwind coming-of-age adventure of righting wrongs, overcoming perilous obstacles, confronting our inner demons, and challenging the limits of reality. This new novel is very much inspired by growing up in the 1980s and some of our most favorite successful toy lines and cartoons, such as Masters of the Universe. And in order to help promote this novel, a whole wealth of media and merchandise was created to go right along with it. In fact, 80s celebrities such as Corey Feldman, Anthony Michael Hall, Joey Lawrence have all reviewed the book. Promotional materials include a Viewmaster with the characters from Order of the Cosmic Champions, a mini comic, and even a soundtrack that's housed on a USB disguised as a cassette tape. This original soundtrack even includes a brand new theme song written by the legendary Stan Bush. And let me tell you, the theme song is a banger. And to go right along with it, there's also exclusive action figures of Mechanigool and Fierce Phantos. Tommy and the Order of the Cosmic Champions is available now. You can purchase your hardcover, digital, or audiobook copy at Amazon, Target, Walmart, Books A Million, or Barnes & Noble. And all of this other cool merchandise, such as the soundtrack and the action figures, are all available as well. Head on over to orderofcosmicchampions.com for more information. So there's probably a lot of board games out there that many of us are nostalgic for, but I'm going in a bit of a different direction because I'm not just talking about a regular old board game. I'm not even talking about some of those really fun, elaborate ones that we remember from our childhoods. No, I am talking about something a little bit smaller, which is magnetic pocket Snakes and Ladders. Yeah. So Snakes and Ladders is one of those all-time classic games. If you guys didn't know, Snakes and Ladders has been around for many, many years. It originated in India and was first brought to the UK in the 1890s, which then became a worldwide phenomenon. The game started being played everywhere. In the 1940s, Milton Bradley brought out their own version of Snakes and Ladders, which has gone on to probably be the more recognized version of the game, Chutes and Ladders.
Here's a game about climbing up and sliding down. It's called Chutes and Ladders. You can land on something good, like rescuing a kitten in a tree.
Ah, you're going up, up, up the ladder.
Or land on Break the Cookie Jar. First one to climb to 100 wins. Chutes and Ladders really has its ups and downs, but mostly it's lots of fun.
Now, Chutes and Ladders takes the same concept from the original game, but it kind of nicens it up a little bit. It gets rid of the snakes because kids were afraid of snakes, I guess, and exchanges it for playground equipment like ladders and slides. But the original game, Snakes and Ladders, was still the exact same concept. The idea was to kind of teach morals. If you look at the pictures on there, when you land on a space where you do a good deed, you get to climb a ladder and skip a bunch of spaces. But if you land on a space where you do something naughty, like, I don't know, break a cookie jar, well then you land on a snake and you slide down the snake's back and you lose a bunch of spaces. It's a very simple concept for a game, but it is very fun. So specifically, I want to talk about these magnetic versions. I love these. These were everywhere when I was a kid. I specifically remember walking into dollar stores as a child and always seeing these magnetic travel games. I specifically remember there being checkers and chess. I had lots of different ones, but Snakes and Ladders, I don't know, something about this one specifically just really has that nostalgic feel to it. Like one day I was just sitting around, I thought about this thing, instantly looked online, and was easily able to find ones just like I had as a kid. Now, since Snakes and Ladders is basically public domain, this is a game that can be manufactured by anybody, so these little magnetic games are not made by one company specifically. In fact, you'll find multiple different versions of the exact same game out there, some of them in different boxes, but they're essentially the exact same thing. In fact, if you compare the game boards, it's really interesting because the two that I have here, you can see that the artwork appears to be the same, but they're colored different. The coloring looks a little bit better on one versus the other, so really interesting stuff to see. So the games open up, and inside they store 4 little plastic pieces that have magnets embedded into the bottom, and 1 little dice. The dice itself is not magnetic, so you still have to be careful with that if you're in the car and you're playing this, but the little pieces themselves do magnetically stick to the little board. It's colorful. I love the pictures on there. I love the snakes. Super fun to play, and I don't know, there's just something cool, especially when you're a kid, about having something that you can easily fold up and then put in your pocket and carry it around. These are still kind of a little big for a child's pocket, but I definitely carried these around with me and felt super cool having a game with me at all times. So these magnetic games are still actually pretty easy to come by. Like I said, I found mine on eBay, but I've seen them all over the place since. It's so funny that after I thought about it and found it, I started finding them at various places. You see them at a lot of like gift shops and stuff. Like if you're out traveling, you're in touristy places, you go to gift shops, these are pretty common things to find, and they're really not that expensive.
Duncan Yo-Yos, the favorite choice of 6 generations. You know the best-selling yo-yo in the world, the Imperial. And for string tricks, the Butterfly, the Jewel, the Glow. It glows in the dark.
Yo-yos. Yes, it's another classic toy, and it's a weird thing maybe to feel nostalgic about, but it's not just the yo-yos themselves. It's a very specific yo-yo, and that, my friends, is the Duncan Jewel yo-yo. So Duncan is well known for lots of different styles. I think the Imperial is their most common yo-yo, still being sold today. The Butterfly, of course, is another one of the common ones, but they also did the Jewel yo-yos, which just had a pretty little gem embedded in it, as the commercial tells us.
And the Jewel, the yo-yo with a pretty jewel in the side.
But the one specifically that I remembered from my childhood was this one right here. It is a stark white yo-yo with a metallic gold cat on there with the jewel embedded right on the cat's eye. So it is a cat's eye jewel yo-yo. Something about this particular yo-yo really stood out to me. I remember the day that I bought this. My family and I were at a store called Farmore. I don't know if any of you remember that, but that was a pretty popular store in my area at the time, long gone these days. But they had a toy aisle there, and I remember seeing this yo-yo on the shelves and instantly being drawn to it. Now, I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. I like shiny things. Any toy that is translucent or metallic or, yes, has these fake little plastic gems on them, something about that always appealed to me, and I fell in love with this yo-yo. Something about that bright, white, clean color with the gold embossed image with that shiny green jewel on there really stood out to me. And here's the thing, I'm not even a good yo-yoer. Is that the right term? Yo-yoer? I'm not good at doing the yo-yo. I'm still not good at doing the yo-yo. In fact, owning this as a kid, I didn't have it to play yo-yo with. It's almost like I held this thing like it was treasure. That's the way I felt about it. That little green sparkly gem on there, I don't know, something about it just felt cool and special. So this is another one of those things where I always thought about it off and on. Like every now and then I would just remember that cool yo-yo I had as a kid. I have no idea what happened to my original one, but one day I just started doing a search, and you know, it took me a while to find this one specifically. There are lots of different styles of jewel yo-yos out there, all with different pictures on them. Sometimes you see like eagles on there, like it's an eagle eye thing, other images like that, but finally, I one day came across on eBay the white one with the cat that I had as a kid. And that was kind of what it was all about. I didn't want to just buy a jewel yo-yo. I wanted the one I had as a kid. That's a very important distinction sometimes when we're talking about things we're nostalgic for. And here I am with this yo-yo. And I still don't know how to actually use it, but I'm glad I own it. That's it. That's all I've got. Okay, so this is the big one. This is the one toy that I thought about all the time. I remembered it from my childhood, and it took me a while to track this one down. It's from a toy line called Pocket Power!
Oh, Pocket Power! The jet blast Carl! The cycle moves Tim! The race car revs Rob! The counters with Jim! Throwing Pocket Power crazy for excitement there is! Power that packs in your pocket! Oh, Pocket Power! Riding down on the road, there's loads of action. Wherever you go, going Pocket Power crazy for excitement there is. Power that packs in your pocket. Pocket Power, 10 dynamite kinds, new from Tyco.
So Pocket Power was a toy line branded with Sega's name, yes, like Sega the video game company, and produced by Tyco. And it was a whole line of pocket toys. Much like that magnetic game we took a look at earlier, the whole concept here is to have a toy that can fold up into a compact little square or rectangle so that you can easily carry it around with you in your pockets. I think the most common one that a lot of fans out there know is Glowbones. Glowbones was a little glow-in-the-dark skeleton action figure who came with a little Viking helmet and a sword, and he came on the little rectangular tray so you can carry him around, and that makes sense. I mean, skeletons make for some of the best action figures. I don't have the full thing, but I do have the Glowbones little figure in my collection, but this is not the one specifically that I was super nostalgic for. And before we get to it, you know, this line had all kinds of different little gimmicks with it. It had spinning tops, it had squirt guns, it had lots of different little vehicles that launched off. One of those I actually have right here. This is the turbo prop, which is a fun one, and you can see how these things kind of worked. You could easily pop this little jet plane out of it, and then hidden inside was this little rip cord, and then you turn it over on the back, and you're supposed to be able to then plug the little jet plane on there, propeller-powered jet plane, and you put in the little rip cord, and then you make this thing fly. All right, we're gonna give this a shot right here. I've honestly not been able to get this thing to work. Yeah, just like that. I don't know. Maybe it would have worked one day, but that gives you an idea of the line. But here is the one that I specifically was extremely nostalgic for, the bowling set. I know, that seems boring compared to Glowbones and flying planes, right? But let me tell you, I loved this little bowling set when I was a kid. I specifically remember buying it with some money that I had, some spending money that was probably from my birthday or Christmas. I found it at a Toys R Us, and I absolutely loved it. And let me tell you, this is a really fun little set. The little compact easily opens up. It breaks into several different parts there. You take these 3 different pieces and you attach them together, and suddenly you've got yourself a little bowling alley. You've got a little metal ball-bearing ball in there and a little ramp that you will use to direct the ball towards those pins at the end of the lane. dropping the ball on the little ramp chute. You can kind of turn that ramp chute whichever direction you want. It sends the ball up the lane to knock over the pins, and then it will go into the gutter and return the ball to the end. It's amazing. And when you're all done, there's a little switch on the side that when you flip it, it just pops those pins back up so you can play another round. This thing works incredibly well. Sometimes that ball doesn't always come down the gutter, but for the most part, it works really, really well. And it's a fun little game, but let me tell you, it's kind of a challenge to get a strike here for some reason, but it can be done with enough persistence. Now, I did notice that mine specifically is missing one of the pins, which is unfortunate, but it's still totally playable. And man, when I finally got my hands on this thing, I felt so happy. Because let me tell you, it took me a long time to even remember what this was. I couldn't remember this being part of the Pocket Power line. I remembered Glow Bones and some of those other figures, but it turns out this was part of Series 3, which was at the end of the line, and of course, that made it one of the harder waves of these to find. I spent a lot of time on early internet asking on message boards if anybody remembered this, and nobody could point me to it. It wasn't until years later that I finally stumbled upon a listing for Pocket Power online where I found out that that's where it was from. And finally getting it in my collection was one of those amazing joys, because it was one of those things I remembered for so long but couldn't remember exactly what it was, could not find it. So finally adding it to my collection, it's that feeling that us as collectors always are seeking to achieve. So there you go, my friends. Those are 3 non-action figure toys that I am extremely nostalgic for, so much so that I had to track them down and add them to my ever-growing toy collection. It's a little silly when you think about it, but you know what? It makes me happy, and that is what toy collecting is all about. So how about you guys? Do you have your own toys that aren't the standard action figures that you're nostalgic for? What sort of things have you spent time tracking down to add to your collection? Let's hear about it. Thank you guys so very much for watching, and as always, I want to give a special thanks to all of my supporters over on Patreon for helping to keep this channel going. You guys are amazing. And of course, thanks to every single person that watches and subscribes. I hope you all have a truly wonderful holiday season. Until next time, my friends.